When's the best time to fire a customer?
You want to do it before they start leaving you trashy reviews.
How to spot a bad customer.
Slow decisions. If they're chronic, they're going to blow everything up and it's going to be your fault.
If they come into the mindset of like, you are my servant because I'm paying you, that's a huge red flag.
You see these warning signs and you just say,
I'm getting out immediately.
Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor Deep Dive.
Martin, when is the best time to plant a tree?
22 years ago.
22 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree?
Right now.
Today, right?
Yeah, I think we've used that metaphor before, but
maybe
it's true.
I think when's the best time to fire a customer? Before you work with them.
There you go.
Right?
I didn't see where you were going. I should have. No, before you get too deep.
Before you even give them a quote or before you sign an agreement, right?
Just tell them you're busy, right? I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes you can get far enough into it, then you have to fire them, which we're going to have some fun today. I thought this was a blast.
Yeah, this will be
You're going to have
good.
to fire them, but you want to do it before they start leaving you trashy reviews and things like that. But even if they do, there's response to that.
So obviously better to fire a customer before they even become a customer. But then the next best time is fire them in the middle or today, right? So talking about how to spot a bad customer.
Bad customer.
Yeah, how to spot a bad customer before you start working with them to save your ass essentially, but to save yourself headache, to save yourself customer concessions and just stress. With this, we're going to have a really fun conversation at the end. That's a real life example of even why we're talking about this, but a fun email that a friend of the podcast got from a client or a potential client as they were going through the bid process. And we're going to kind of go through some of those 14 questions and share whether we think they're a fair question that a customer can ask or whether they're not a fair question a customer can ask.
Right.
Should be fun. So let's jump into this. I've got 11 reasons. There's definitely 11 red flags, I guess I should say. There's definitely more than this, but a lot of the things that can lead you to say, hey, I probably shouldn't work with this person are kind of boiled in these 11 points. Let's jump into them. I think the first one that is just kind of an easy tell for me, at least, is they can't really define what they want. And this isn't always a red flag because there is a discovery process that you go through and educating the client and helping them understand exactly, especially a homeowner. Hey, here's how this process works. Here's what's possible. Here's what's not possible. Here's maybe a mood board, for example, of what we could turn your home into. That's part of it. What I mean by they can't define what they want is you've already gone through that process and it's just back and forth like a seesaw. Like, oh, I want this, or oh no, wait about this. And then they're constantly changing.
I think another way to say that is they can't make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And early on, slow decisions are maybe a little to be expected, but if they're chronic, they're going to blow everything up. And of course, it's going to be your fault.
Yeah. I think
so. That's a good one.
Yeah. I think that's one that you don't necessarily get right away on the first phone call, but if by the third time you're together, there's still no direction, this is probably the case. So the next one, number 2, is about timeline and budget and just being completely unrealistic. And this is something that I think for a lot of contractors, they shy away from sometimes. They don't necessarily figure out on that first phone call that, oh, I've got a lead. Well, let's qualify them by understanding their budget and their timeline. And if you wait too long if you're still going to their house to figure that stuff out, then you've asked too late, in my opinion. You've got to figure that stuff out earlier. What is their timeline? What is their budget? And being unrealistic with it isn't just you tell them how long it'll take and then they're like, oh, that's not good enough, whatever. That's an easy one. The hard ones are more so we're finally getting into the work and they're now asking for the small things to be done really quickly or to be done yesterday. And then they're complaining about every little single change order that comes up and every little cost and wanting to get it down. And I don't know. What is your thought on this?
Well, my thought is you want to spot that kind of, if you're at that point where you're already having to make those decisions and changes, you've missed the boat. We want to
Yeah.
spot that in advance. And I think that the way you described an inability to make a decision is a real red flag.
Yeah.
They can change their minds, but at a rational rate.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got indecisiveness. We've got unrealistic expectations in terms of timeline and budget. The next one that I've got reminds me of being in high school and going to the local Mexican restaurant and ordering a sopapilla so that I can get unlimited chips and queso for lunch. And essentially, this one is the self-sourcing customer who wants to get all the materials or even have, one of their friends help with some of the labor or do the a la carte service, basically, and order
Right.
from the a la carte menu, but get all the benefits of working with you, the chips and queso and salsa, if you will, right? So I think that's a huge red flag and never something that you should jump into.
Yeah, it raises all sorts of issues. Like if they do source something and you put it in, there needs to be a clear understanding. What if it's damaged? What if it's not the right part? I had a pool builder who had people ordering their controller and they just didn't order the right one. And well, it said it was, and then who's responsible? Who's going to fix it? Who's going to pay for it? Yeah, that's a tough one. And the other thing is a little bit in general here. I like to see people itemize the things that their client is going to get, but they don't price them individually. And people will complain about that. They want to know your labor and all this. Well, frankly, it's not any of their business. Is the price, it's what you're getting worth the price or not. And if you get into that, then they start saying, well, just what you said, my brother-in-law and I can wire up the garage ourselves on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So we'll take that off. Pretty soon you've pulled out a lot of things. Your margin is not the same. And so if you're running across town to put up one brick is not the same thing as going across town and building a brick fence.
Yeah.
One has margin in it. The other one doesn't. So yeah, people who really want to nitpick and do it themselves or privately source their own stuff, there's some of that's legit. And, but really it's a bad sign if they're sounding like they want to do that.
Yeah, I think it's too much micromanagement, and I mean, they should just be their own GC at that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
Yeah.
good luck with that.
good luck.
Find out how hard could it be?
Absolutely. Yeah. So next one is excessive haggling. It also kind of gets into what you've just said with the margins, wanting to know your margins, which is the fifth point I have here. But excessive haggling and going back and forth on a variety of things. And it's not necessarily even just haggling about price, but it's haggling about time. It's haggling about, little decisions that need to be made, like haggling about how to file the permit, for example. Like, just there's so many things
Where did you come up with that idea?
Oh, well, we'll get
We'll
into that
talk
in a
about
minute. Yeah, but there's all these decisions that need to be made. Not all of them are around price, but at the end of the day, there's like if they're wanting to micromanage too much and get involved in what is not their responsibility as a customer, it's a red flag. They need to stay in their lane, just like you need to stay in your lane. You don't need to question every little design decision they've made. If they want hooks instead of towel racks, let them make that decision, right? That's their lane. So anyways, excessive haggling, wanting to know your margins or wanting to know your line items. That's the one that you brought up. Next one here is just no boundaries. The customer that texts you in the middle of the night or calls you 3 times in a row or doesn't, sends 3 emails a day. There's boundaries that need to not be crossed. The ones that tell your employees what to do, like there's just boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. And if someone crosses boundaries regularly, you should be able to see some of those things early on, right?
Right. Especially if you're looking for them.
Yeah. We have a mutual friend, connection, and I feel really bad because I referred my neighbor to him. This is for a roof right after a storm. We got our roof replaced. I've got a neighbor who is a really good family friend, great person as an individual. Probably the worst customer I could have sent to him. And she was literally getting up on the roof to watch the workers and making sure they were doing a good job. And that's just a boundary you should not be crossed.
Yeah,
So,
she should not be on the roof. And what makes you think she could recognize it was done well or not? Man,
yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Oh
I
man.
thought you were going to go the other direction. You were sorry you recommended a client to this.
No,
I
he went
mean, a
above and beyond, but it was just like the Nightmare on Elm
client from
Street
hell.
project. Yeah,
Yeah.
client from hell.
Oh my
Gosh.
gosh.
Yeah. Fun times. Okay. So the next one, the way that I've phrased this is customer supremacy, where they think that the
Yeah.
customer is always right. And I think that could be right if you're going through the drive-through and yeah, the customer is always right. Let's give them extra chicken nuggets or, free fries, whatever, get on with it. But in terms of a construction project worth tens of thousands of dollars, the customer is not always right. And you don't always need to be giving customer concessions. And if they come into the mindset of like, you are my servant because I'm paying you, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
There's needs to be a mutual amount of respect that we're a partner in this project. We're trying to get this through to see this through to completion and make sure it's a success together. And we will
Yeah.
cooperate with each other and work together to make that a reality. As soon as they start saying that, like blaming you for things, making excuses, and really directing you about things that they shouldn't
Yeah.
be
And
directing
that
you on, it's over the top.
communication that you talked about when they're texting you all the time and demanding, why didn't you call me back? And yeah, if there's one thing, my father used to say, the customer is not always right. However, the customer is always important until
That's a good
maybe you
point.
fire 'em. So it is a good point, but they're obviously not always right. But absolute de minimis, you do not go below this. You are equals. You are equals. You don't take a bunch of crap off of anybody, any of that servant stuff. Matter of fact, as my son says, I love this attitude and sound. He goes, maybe they need us a little more than we need them.
Yeah.
And in fact, we are the superior in that, we know what's going on. They want this project. They need education. They need it done right. Need the permits filed, all this stuff. We're the ones who know how to do that. We don't need them
No.
unless because of our mental condition, we think we do because we're chasing sales.
Well, and
But
this is
we
where
do
that
absolute.
the positioning of your company
Yeah.
makes all the difference. If you know exactly who your ideal customer is, and then if you know exactly the value that you bring to the project and you communicate that up front, it kind of gets into our next point. The customer won't be able to compare apples to oranges. You need to define what an apple is, and you need to define what an orange is. And if you're the apple and this is exactly how you operate and why you are different than the oranges out there, that if you do that from the very beginning and you're going through that qualification process and they're still trying to compare you to an orange, red flag. If they say, well, we did this other project and they did it this way, or that's not how my friend's contractor worked, get out.
I have an answer I've used before on here, but it's one I really like. They come at you and go, well, we got another bid and they're 20% lower than yours. I have had innumerable clients over time try to explain that to a customer. One of them even said, well, their costs are probably lower. Well, you know what? The customer doesn't care. Here's the answer. I have no idea what that guy's doing. Don't know his business practices, don't know what he's doing, don't know anything about it. This is what I have to charge to take care of you. And you don't,
Yep.
that goes back to I think I said at the beginning is the price is for us as contractors.
Yeah.
The project is for them. They need to determine whether or not that project is what they want, correctly described, and whether they're willing to pay our price. We don't even tell them how stupid they are if they don't want, for wanting what they want. We give them what they want, and are we willing to do that for the price? The price really is none of their business. And what they want actually is none of your business. Why they want it. It's your business if you have to provide it, right? But that's a real important thing. Recognizing mutual respect right off and recognizing the boundaries between the price and the project.
Yeah.
And no explaining to be done. That's our prize.
Yeah. I think along with that, we have down here making decisions beyond their intelligence. What's the saying that we got that from?
Well, out in the oil fields, a lot of guys the roughnecks who are on the rigs, pretty salty guys. I mean, they're doing some sophisticated stuff.
Yeah.
And then the engineers come out. And actually, engineers are pretty cool guys too. But one thing the roughnecks I've heard him say about an engineer who drives him crazy is that he's been educated far beyond his intelligence. And I just love that. Now, they're acting far beyond in our case, we're talking about customers that are making decisions beyond their intelligence. But the decisions.
If they're so smart, why don't they do it themselves?
Well, and one thing is, well, I don't understand why. Well, the answer I want to give people is, you're right. You don't understand. I do. You want the project or you don't want? I mean, this all within reasonable requests. People can ask questions. How's that work? But when it's just pounding you, you don't have time for it.
Yeah, I think just looking to get more involved than they need to be is a general thing here, but making decisions that really should be left to you and trying to get involved where they shouldn't, just micromanaging in general is a huge red flag. The other thing I wanted to bring up is a lack of understanding of the effort behind the ask. When they're asking things of you that are unrealistic, but also that are just not possible, or you're doing something, you're providing a service, you're talking about your process, for example, or when you're delivering that service and they don't understand how much actually goes into it. I'm trying to think of a really good example here, but
Well, I'll give you one that's kind of specific, but kind of not. And it's the word can't you just. Do you get that? Can't you just?
What does that mean?
That means the guy walks outside and says, well, I need to water the other side of the driveway. Can't you just run a pipe over there?
That's a good example.
Yeah. And software guys do it all the time. I had a software guy. He's always going, everybody says, can't you just? Well, by God, no, I can't. Or yes, I can, but it's not just can't you just, because you don't understand what's behind the ask.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't home. Can you come by in an hour?
Yeah, can't you just? Yeah.
No, I've got my next appointment. Yeah, can't you just do it tomorrow? Yeah. Like not understanding the effort behind the ask, not being respectful of what you do as a business. Lastly, this one's fun, and we're gonna have some great examples of this. But the option assassins is what we called it, and basically, when you're going through the bid process or the quote process, they want to see every single option available. And so for you to price this project, it literally takes you 2 days because you've got to look through 5 different options of flooring or 5 different options of fixtures. And you're just going through so many different iterations. And then after you send it to them, what do they want? More options.
And they want combinations.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just, well, I like the black one and the blue one, but how about if I had the black one and the red one and the red one and the blue one? Well, that's 2 things, but it's 4 options. Right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if you have 5 things and you're doing them all, but to take it in order, there are 120 different ways to mix 5 things. That's the math. 5 times 4 times 3 times 2. It quickly gets out of hand.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Well, we've gone through these 11 red flags, if you will. I'll recap them really fast.
Hey, here's one more.
We'll get number 12.
How about you just don't freaking like them? Maybe you can't identify every one of those things. But yeah, they're just somebody that just rubs you the wrong way. You can tell maybe it wasn't exactly one of the 11 we got. Maybe it's another one we skipped. But you're just going, I would dread coming over here every day.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm not going to do it. Now, you can't be
Yeah.
frivolous with that. You got to be a big boy or a big girl. But if it's pretty obvious, just say, I don't need to do
I'll
it.
pass.
Right.
Yeah, the litmus test. Okay, so let's recap those. First, we had
Okay.
can't define what they want. Second, unrealistic timeline or budget. The third was that they want to self-source or a la carte your services. They have excessive haggling as our fourth. Number 5, they want to know your margins. Number 6, they have no boundaries or respect for your time or space. Number 7, they feel like the customer is superior to you. They don't want to partner, but they want you to serve them no matter what, and that they're always right. Number 8, they make decisions beyond their intelligence. They step out of their lane and they try to get involved where they really shouldn't be getting involved. Number 9 is that they're comparing apples to oranges, and they will always compare apples to oranges, even after you've explained exactly how you're different. Number 10, they don't understand the effort behind the ask, and they're unrealistic with what they ask you to do at all times. And number 11, they are the option assassins. They constantly want different options and combinations of options and will basically make you quote to death, essentially. And then lastly, like you said, you just don't like them. They give you a bad vibe. Just move on, right? So definitely others out there, but there's 11 with a bonus one from Martin. Let's jump into this email. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So real life example
then-
from just earlier
Yeah.
this week, I think.
Yeah, I think in our effort to, have some interesting things here, we like to talk about things that really happened. And this
Yeah.
really happened earlier this week from a client, actually at both of he's
Yeah,
client
I've worked with
out in
them.
Colorado. Yeah, and it's really fun because I kind of enjoy reading this because it's so
Yeah.
brazen, right? But there are 14 points on here. We'll kind of alternate. I won't give you all of our clients' responses to all of them, but question number 1 from a lady regarding approximately
I get to
$200,000
tell you whether I
remodel.
think this is fair or not.
Yeah. You tell me if this fits our criteria as being unreasonable and this is pretty black and white, right? Question number 1. What is your percent markup on the material line item? Is that a fair question or not?
I mean, like, I don't even know when I would ask this unless I was like a partner and like consulting for this person, trying to help them figure out how to make more money, or like as a customer. I don't know that I would ever ask this question. And even if it's a question I had, I would go and research it. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand how you have the audacity to ask this question. So this is not fair. It's
actually-
unreasonable.
You're correct. I mean, it's just the definition of it,
Yeah.
I did see a guy on Instagram or something looking for a contractor to do something. And he said he believed that a 10% margin was plenty for a contractor. And he was kind of mad because he wasn't getting all kinds of takers. But anyway, what the hell does he know? Okay, you going to
What
read
does
the
he
second
know?
one?
All right. I'm going to read this question. You tell me whether this is fair or unfair to you, Martin. And
Okay.
just for context for listeners, this is for a bathroom remodel. Okay. There were several things I'm unclear about whether they are included in this bid or not. Some were on the product sheet and some were not. Example given: the hood, the mantle, the chandelier for the dining room, the powder room fan vent, period. We also want to use the existing toilet in the powder room and the existing working garbage disposal and would like those removed. If a powder room fan is not required by code when you have a working window in that room, we'd like that removed. Can you clarify, please?
Okay. And first of all, this is a whole floor remodel, not just a bathroom. But
Okay.
this can go either way. Early on in the process, can you clarify, please, is a very legit
Question.
right? There's some warnings in there. We want to use the existing toilet. And now this is almost, if it's early in the process, it's
This
a
is
fair
fair.
question. Clarify. And matter of fact, I always encourage clarify on
Yeah.
every one of those things. So I'd say
Yeah.
that has the potential to be, that's not an automatic disqualification.
Now,
if you're in the 10th round of discussions,
exactly.
it's getting a little tedious.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll read the next one. Question number 3 in the actual email. literally reading it, what the writer wrote. If we source items through my sister-in-law or elsewhere, will you allow us to use them without a markup? We had discussed this once previously, and you mentioned that anything we source or purchase could be removed from the bid at this stage of the process, at the time they were talking. I understand that with some determining specs, handling, etc., or materials, any potential markup, and I'm unclear if you are or how much you are marking it up, would reflect costs associated with your team for determining specs, handling, etc., etc. However, there are several items here, such as flooring, sink, faucet, mantle, hood, etc., that I independently found at a price point within our budget. And I think it's only fair for those to be billed to reflect that.
Yeah, this is this is like multiple red flags. Like a
Yeah.
bomb went off. Like unrealistic timeline or budget, excessive haggling, wanting to self-source, wants to know your margins. I mean, customer supremacy. Like it's only fair.
Yeah.
There's just so
Yeah.
many things going on here. I hear this question, I'm getting out immediately. Sounds like you got it covered. I appreciate your time. Moving on.
Yeah. Maybe the first time you meet him and you have the opportunity to say, well, I'm going to use our client's answer to that. He said, we are a fixed fee turnkey remodeling firm, and I apologize if that was not communicated initially. We source and provide all materials to eliminate confusion and issues in pre-construction, purchasing, delivery, installation, and warranty. And he gave some examples. So he did answer that. We're at a point where maybe I wouldn't have even answered it. But fair enough. If she gets it, she gets the message, we're good. No, I don't do that. We're fixed fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely out of line. Okay, let's go to the next one.
You're number 4.
Yep. So in line with that last question, we have a bid for cabinetry from Lowe's for $25,000. If we did that or used my sister-in-law's company discount to get cabinetry, would you allow us to use them at cost? Of course, recognizing you will still need to bill for labor for install and additional materials needed to install. What are we doing here?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely not it.
Why don't you go and get a handyman to install these for you?
Yeah.
That sounds like that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Or as Khalil said, be your own GC, which is if you get a handyman, that's what you're doing. Yeah. And reasoning for that, I think we already brought up, but it brings up all kinds of responsibilities and who did this and it ordered wrong and it doesn't fit. And you're going to have to scribe the cabinets to go in. And anyway, no, we just don't do that. So,
you know what frustrates me about this one is that we've already gone through the process of getting a bid to this person and contacting our subs, looking at material costs, figuring out the time for production and install, maybe even getting it onto our schedule and seeing when we're going to be able to do this for a realistic timeline. We've done so much work, and now they're going to ask us to start doing things at cost. Like, I just don't understand. So really frustrated. All right, let's go to the next one, Morton.
Next one's kind of fun. My sister-in-law and a contractor friend explained their process for permitting and determining valuation. We think there is room to lower cost of the permit from how you are permitting this. The cost of the total project, including labor and finishes that don't impact home value. We are also concerned about the way this is being permitted, that it will impact our property value and therefore our taxes. In other words, they're telling them to submit a lower estimate on the permit in order to not have their property taxes go up, their valuation. And how far out in the weeds is that? I mean, our client said, I'm always open to ideas and options, but yeah.
This is unrealistic.
We know how to submit, and that's what we're going to do. We're not going to jeopardize our company.
This isn't something that you ask your
wild.
Contractor. So definitely unfair and unethical. Excessive haggling is just crazy. So yeah, cancel. I think for the second question, like we said, is maybe doable, just getting clarification on something. The rest of the 4 that we've gone through so far are fireable offenses, in my opinion.
Right. So
Okay,
number
so
6.
number 6, we have a door quote from Home Depot. We're going to Lowe's and Home Depot for an Anderson French door that is $3,200 for a door of presumably comparable quality to your quote. Presumably is a great word there. If you check it out and it aligns, we would prefer to use this. Similarly, we'd like to compare your window quotes against ours. What in the world?
I'm
Oh
not
my
going
gosh.
to say anything. I'm just going
Okay.
to read number 7 out of 14 in this email.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'd like you to consider removing the cost of painting the siding on the exterior porch side. You can do this.
I'm okay with this. We're
Yeah, early on.
outside of this context, outside the context of everything we've gone through. If someone just said, "Hey, if we really just need help with the installation here, and that's the scope of work, we're going to do the painting ourselves," I'm fine with that. I think that's totally reasonable. So,
Okay.
fair adjustment. Next one, we still need to hear from your sub
Project manager.
or
Yeah.
project manager. Sorry, we still need to hear from your project manager about the code for the dog door under the window flanking the French door.
Okay.
I
Legit.
I think it's fine. Yeah, I don't
And
I don't know. I question why she wants to know that. Is she going to go and try to get a quote for the dog door from somewhere else to see if she can get it at cost? Anyways,
get that permit removed from their property
Ye-
valuation.
yeah, but yeah, that's fine. Maybe she just wants to make sure it's the right size for
Is
her
it me?
dog. Yeah, it's you. Number 9.
This is just a statement rather than a question, but we're considering different bids for patio window doors and windows. Okay. What's
Sounds
that
like
mean?
you want to be a GC. If you're going to be going and gathering
Yep.
quotes for specific, like just every little thing from the dog door to the windows, you want to be a GC. Okay. So number 10, we're considering sourcing cabinets from somewhere else at lower cost, like Lowe's or my sister-in-law's company. Or alternatively, if there's markup on the cabinets that you're doing, removing that markup if it keeps them closer to in budget. What?
Oh, I mean, this is kind of fun, right? I mean, not if you went to all the work to prepare the bid and everything, but I don't even think that's wrong on every count.
Yeah,
Micromanaging.
I like what this the response was from this contractor. No, thank you. We will not remove any markups from our costs. That is a quick way to go out of business and not something we would like to pursue. I feel like you could say that for every point here.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's a
Yeah.
quick way to go out of business and not something we would like to pursue. Okay.
We're wondering if you will, am I 12? My turn?
I think I'm 12.
Okay.
Or you're 11. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go for 11.
Okay. Just removing items from the proposal that are not
Yeah.
needed, such
That's
as
fine.
powder toilet. Okay. I mean,
That's fine.
all that
Okay.
negotiated up front.
Yeah. We're considering not would you consider not marking up materials for items that we source and we buy these from a store and store them at our house, but we'll still pay you for labor install? As a reminder, prior to signing the proposal, I explicitly told you about this, knowing we have contacts to source some items at discounted rates, and was told we can remove items we have obtained at this stage of the process and revise accordingly. So I'm okay with it. That's just a different scope. Hey, for the things that are inside of our scope of work, we source it. We do all that stuff. Unless we're an install company and you're just paying us for install, like a handyman, for example, that's a different scope. But like in terms of, hey, we're doing the remodel here, we're the GC. If you want to take things out and do them yourself, that's totally fine. But it's not, oh, well, you source some of the materials and then we do it for you. And that's just, we're a sub at that point, and that's not our role.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
that's kind of my perspective on that.
Well, there's one other thing in there that if I were reading that would really hack me off. Well, I did read it, but it wasn't me. I explicitly told you, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, I have no idea. It wasn't there, but I do know our client. I explicitly told you we were going to do, it's kind of, that's like a respect,
Like a respect.
I thought we had discussed
customer supremacy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
customer supremacy.
No. Yeah. So, okay. So,
So are we at 13?
we're at 13.
Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's me.
Yeah.
Reevaluating the permit valuation, as there are clearly several different approaches to this that are still legal, but might be more favorable to our budget. Anyway, that we kind of addressed that before, but
Yeah. I think
our
these last
client's
two questions
response
have
was,
already kind of been said, but we're
yeah,
not going to
she's
do anything
kind of
unethical.
logging.
Our price
Yeah.
is our price. That's what's going on the permit, because we are not going to risk our license because we did something just to save you some. I mean, the tax dollars can't be that much more. I don't know. Anyways, the last one is removing work cost to paint exterior, which she already mentioned.
Yeah,
So
she's saying it again.
totally fine.
Yeah. Now let's kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
Hate to do
Okay.
that,
We'll wrap
but
it up. So yeah, obviously, I think anybody could have read this. The questions that were asked probably got into number 3 and been like, whoa, hold on, let's get out of here. But even just the first one, what is your margin on your markup? Like, oh man, I just can't imagine getting that email.
And like you mentioned in our discussion beforehand, time and material is a way to do business. We're not suggesting it in this case, or it might work in this case. It's a completely different way to do business that we're not considering.
Yeah.
If you're a fixed fee contractor, you stand to, if you do real well, to make extra money. If you don't do as well, you lose a little money. But so we're looking at them from that perspective. But even if I were time and material and I got all these questions, I'd strap on my tennis shoes and get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. Yeah. Not worth it. Man,
another idea I think you had real quickly beforehand is we always talk about our clients and us getting reviews and how important it is to get Google reviews or see what people say about them on Facebook and things like that. This is a time where you can flip it. If you get some signals, it's not likely that Mr. or Mrs. Jones on Elm Street can have Google reviews, but they're going to have an Instagram page or a Twitter account or a Facebook page, and you can go and look. And if they're constantly chewing out their neighbor and kicking cats and taking candy from babies, maybe you want to avoid them. Use their reviews.
Yeah. And you can actually, you can look at their Facebook and social media accounts. You can also look at their Google My Business profile as like a user and see the reviews that they've left for other people. And that's usually a telltale sign. Another thing is usually with referrals, you don't have this as much because they're like-minded to the person that referred them. But you can also ask questions of the person who's referring. Oh, why do you think they'd be a good fit? What do they like to work with? Just basic questions if they are a referral. But
the reason everybody experienced, brand new to highly experienced, will recognize the things we just talked about.
Yeah.
Some people will go ahead and answer those questions and concede because they want the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real landmark, a tipping point in your business. If you want the work, but you see these warning signs and you just say, no, and you bow out gracefully. Looks like we can't meet your needs. Appreciate the opportunity and let it go. Don't argue. Don't equivocate. Just get away from them. And when you can do that, you'll be moving into the next level if you're not there already.
Absolutely.
In your contractor lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fun, Martin. I think it's one that hopefully people already knew in some respect, but maybe there's some different things that resonated with some of our listeners and they'll take into consideration. Ask yourself these questions about each red flag ahead of time of actually getting a signed contract in place, and you'll save yourself a lot of headache, a lot of concessions, and hopefully be able to focus on better work. So thanks, Martin. Great seeing you.
Okay. You too. Talk to you next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.